What if everything you thought you knew about the Queen's final moments was only part of the truth? Imagine the Queen of England, the world's longest reigning monarch, passing away in peaceful dignity, surrounded by her closest family and trusted aides, only to have a shocking revelation emerge that casts a shadow over those final hours. What if there were substances in her system, medications unknown to her official doctors and absent from the medical records? Could this mean that the story we have been told was incomplete, or worse, deliberately concealed? Tonight, we dive into a revelation that could shake the very foundations of the British monarchy. For decades, the Queen was a symbol of strength, endurance, and tradition. Her image was one of unwavering stability amid an ever-changing world. The very notion of her final days seemed to echo that same poise, calm, controlled, and dignified. Yet behind the polished public facade, new information is beginning to unravel a narrative that was once taken at face value. A royal insider, whose identity remains closely guarded, has leaked startling information. The autopsy report on the Queen's body allegedly revealed traces of medication not disclosed in any official statement or health record. This detail has ignited fierce debate and intense speculation across media outlets, expert circles, and social platforms worldwide. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. What kind of medication was found? Who authorized its use? Was it part of her prescribed care, or could it be evidence of something more sinister? Questions like these now dominate the conversation. Experts in geriatric medicine and forensic pathology are weighing in, offering chilling possibilities about the risks of unlisted drugs in an elderly patient's system. Meanwhile, royal watchers and insiders wonder if this leak signals deeper fractures within the palace walls, fractures that might extend beyond simple medical mysteries into realms of secrecy, betrayal, and power struggles. The palace, renowned for its control over information and its protective veil of silence, has yet to address these revelations directly. Official statements have been cautious and non-committal, fueling even more intrigue. The public is left to fill in the gaps, and conspiracy theories are spreading like wildfire. Some suggest accidental medical error, others hint at deliberate tampering, and a few point to political motivations behind keeping the truth from the world. What if the Queen was unknowingly medicated in ways that hastened her decline? What if someone had reasons to ensure her health faltered quickly? Tonight's story will take you through the Queen's last days at Balmoral Castle, from the serene facade to the hidden tensions behind closed doors. We will explore the official timeline released by Buckingham Palace, contrasted against leaked information and insider testimony. Medical experts will guide us through the complex world of elder care, medication risks, and the delicate balancing act of treating a nonagenarian monarch. We will uncover the royal family's intricate dynamics during this critical time, including whispers of disagreement, access battles, and differing agendas. The media's cautious handling of the story will be examined, highlighting its role in shaping public perception. As this story unfolds, you will hear voices from every side, the loyalists defending the palace's privacy, the critics demanding transparency, and the grieving public caught in the middle of a growing storm. The Queen's death was a national moment of mourning, yet behind that mourning lies a puzzle whose pieces are only now being revealed. The truth, whatever it may be, has the potential to redefine history and alter the legacy of a monarch who was once seen as untouchable. By the end of this video, you will have walked through every known detail, every hint of mystery, and every possible explanation. But more importantly, you will be left to wrestle with a question that cuts to the heart of trust, power, and mortality. Can the truth about the Queen's final hours ever truly be known? Or will it forever remain a guarded secret, hidden beneath the layers of royal protocol and silence? Stay with us as we peel back the curtain on one of the most sensitive and significant stories of our time. This is not just the story of a monarch's passing. It is a tale of secrets, shadows, and the lengths to which those in power will go to protect a legacy. As the world watched with bated breath, the Queen's health took a sudden and mysterious turn in the early autumn days at Balmoral Castle. Known for her stoic endurance, it was unthinkable that the formidable monarch could face such frailty so swiftly. Staff who had been at her side for years described an unsettling change. The Queen, once vibrant and alert, grew visibly weaker, her movements slowed, her smiles rarer. She was seen clutching a walking stick more tightly, her once strong posture giving way to a fragile silhouette. These small but significant signs sent ripples through the palace corridors and across the globe. Yet, official updates were scarce and carefully crafted. Buckingham Palace released measured statements, informing the public only that the Queen was under medical supervision but offering little detail. This silence was consistent with decades of royal protocol, protecting the monarchy's privacy, managing narratives tightly, and shielding the public from distressing truths. But inside Balmoral's stone walls, a quiet battle was unfolding. A battle between transparency and secrecy, between trust and suspicion. It was during this time that whispers began to circulate. Trusted aides spoke in hushed tones about new medications introduced into the Queen's regimen, changes not fully explained even to close family members. Then, the unthinkable happened. An anonymous insider, risking everything, leaked information suggesting that the autopsy revealed substances in her system that were not listed in her medical records. A bombshell that no one saw coming. This leak shattered the carefully maintained image of a peaceful passing and opened a Pandora's box of questions. Medical experts quickly weighed in, cautioning that undisclosed medications in elderly patients can be extremely dangerous. In the Queen's advanced age, well into her 90s, even minor adjustments to medication must be handled with the utmost care. Mistakes or intentional alterations could result in serious health consequences, including heart complications, cognitive decline, or even death. Who administered these drugs? Were they part of her prescribed palliative care? Or was there a hidden agenda at play? Theories range from accidental mismanagement by overburdened medical staff to more disturbing notions of deliberate interference. Each possibility carries weighty implications, not just for the legacy of the late monarch, but for the very stability of the British crown. Inside the palace, tensions reportedly ran high. Sources close to the family describe a complex web of relationships strained by grief, power struggles, and clashing interests. The Queen's son and heir, Prince Charles, faced enormous pressure to uphold tradition while managing modern expectations. Other family members, including younger generations and those once at odds with royal customs, watched from the sidelines, their voices silenced or ignored. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken conflict. In parallel, the public grappled with their own emotions, a blend of sorrow, reverence, and now, suspicion. Social media exploded with theories and rumors. Some mourned in silence, others demanded answers. The royal family's careful image management appeared increasingly fragile under the weight of mounting doubts. The media's role was crucial yet complex. While mainstream outlets tread carefully, often echoing official narratives, independent journalists and bloggers pushed harder, investigating, questioning, and challenging. This dynamic created a tense environment where facts and speculation blurred, leaving many to wonder what the true story was and who stood to benefit from its concealment. As the investigation deepened, experts revealed just how delicate elder care is, especially for someone in the Queen's position. The administration of medication is not merely a clinical procedure. It is an intricate dance involving assessments of risk, close monitoring, and frequent adjustments. One wrong move can cascade into life-threatening complications. The presence of unrecorded substances could signify oversight or worse, malpractice. Questions about access became central. Who had the authority to alter treatment plans? Who controlled the flow of information to the public and within the family? Some speculate that personal aides, physicians, or even distant family members could have influenced decisions without full consensus. Such dynamics, if true, expose vulnerabilities in the monarchy's internal governance. Adding fuel to the fire were historical precedents. The British royal family has long maintained a veil of secrecy over health issues, famously hiding King George VI's cancer diagnosis from the public. Could this culture of concealment have extended to the Queen's final days, potentially putting her at risk? Among the family, the reaction of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle has also been under scrutiny. Reportedly distant during the Queen's illness and passing, their silence or selective statements have led to speculation about renewed rifts and fractured loyalties. Could their perspective shed light on internal family dynamics influencing the handling of the Queen's care and the autopsy leak? As the narrative grew more complex, conspiracy theories flourished. Some claimed the leak was orchestrated to destabilize the monarchy or accelerate succession plans. Others alleged deliberate poisoning or negligence hidden under layers of royal protocol. While many theories remain unproven and speculative, they reflect a profound public distrust fueled by secrecy. Through all this, Buckingham Palace's official response remained measured, often emphasizing respect for privacy and mourning. The absence of transparent communication only intensified calls for accountability and truth. For a monarchy that relies heavily on public trust, this moment is critical. In this video, we will journey beyond headlines and speculation, examining every facet of the Queen's last days, the autopsy revelations, and their profound implications. Through expert insights, insider accounts, and a careful analysis of available evidence, we seek to understand what really happened and what it means for the future of the British crown. The story of the Queen's passing is more than an event. It is a reflection of power, secrecy, and the fragile nature of truth in an age where information is both weapon and shield. As we navigate this tale, ask yourself, if the most powerful woman in the world could be the subject of such mystery and doubt, what does that say about those who hold the reins behind the scenes? This is not a story about conspiracy for its own sake. It is a story about the need for transparency, for honoring the dignity of a life lived in the public eye, and for confronting uncomfortable truths with courage. Stay with us as we unravel the facts, confront the unknowns, and shine a light on a chapter in history still shrouded in shadows. Balmoral Castle, nestled deep in the Scottish Highlands, has long been a sanctuary for the British royal family, a place where public scrutiny fades, and the Queen could retreat into the privacy of her beloved estate. It was here, in the crisp early autumn of 2022, that the Queen spent her final days. But beneath the serene beauty of the rolling hills and ancient woods, an unspoken tension simmered, a tension that few outside the palace walls fully understood. To the outside world, the Queen appeared as composed as ever. Photographs showed her clad in her signature pastel coats and hat, standing upright beside her walking stick, greeting well-wishers with a gentle wave. Yet, those close to her noticed subtle signs of decline. Her steps faltered more frequently, her voice carried less authority, and her famously sharp wit occasionally wavered. For a monarch who had weathered decades of public and private storms, this fragility was deeply unsettling. Royal aides who had served the Queen for years recounted moments of concern. One senior staff member, speaking on condition of anonymity, described a day when the Queen struggled to rise from her chair during a family gathering, her face pale and drawn. It was unlike anything we'd seen before, the aide recalled. There was a vulnerability in her that no one wanted to admit. But even amid these signs, the atmosphere at Balmoral remained one of quiet dignity. The Queen insisted on maintaining her usual routines, attending to her correspondence and holding briefings with advisors when able. Family members, including Prince Charles and Princess Anne, were frequently by her side, offering support and care. Yet, beneath the surface, difficult conversations were underway. Conversations about health, mortality, and the future of the monarchy. Medical professionals attending the Queen observed a gradual but unmistakable decline. Her doctors adjusted treatments in response, but the precise nature of her ailments was never publicly disclosed. Some reports later indicated that she was suffering from mobility issues, fatigue, and early signs of cognitive slowing, conditions common in advanced age but challenging to manage, especially under the pressures of royalty. As the days progressed, the Queen's condition became more fragile. In the quiet hours of the Scottish evenings, she was sometimes seen gazing out over the vast estate, perhaps reflecting on a life that had shaped history. The weight of decades in the public eye, the responsibilities of leadership, and personal losses must have weighed heavily. Yet, the Queen's resilience was undeniable. Despite physical hardships, she remained mentally engaged, discussing matters of state and family with her trusted confidants. To those around her, she was still the unwavering figurehead, even as her body weakened. Then came the day that changed everything. The Queen's health took a sharp downturn. Reports described her being confined to her chambers, unable to attend to even the simplest of tasks. Family members gathered at Balmoral, their faces etched with worry and sorrow. The world waited anxiously for news, but the updates remained sparse and guarded. Buckingham Palace released only a brief statement confirming the Queen was under medical supervision, without elaborating. The public, desperate for information, turned to media speculation and unofficial sources. Within Balmoral, the atmosphere was heavy with unspoken fears. Those closest to the Queen faced the grim reality that her time was near. Yet, even in these final hours, the Queen's demeanor was said to be calm, accepting, and dignified. What caused this sudden decline? Was it the natural course of aging, an underlying illness, or something else entirely? The official narrative provided few clues, leaving room for doubt and questions. As we peel back the layers of this story, the Queen's final days become not just a tale of personal struggle, but a window into the complexities of royal care, where privacy, duty, and secrecy collide. The serene images of Balmoral mask a reality fraught with tension, mystery, and unanswered questions. In the chapters ahead, we will explore the official timeline of events, the medical mysteries that surfaced, and the ripple effects of the autopsy leak that has shaken the monarchy to its core. But first, let us dwell on those last peaceful moments at Balmoral, a poignant reminder of the human behind the crown. When news first broke of the Queen's health concerns, Buckingham Palace moved swiftly to control the narrative. In an institution steeped in tradition and image management, the public's perception of the monarch's condition is treated with utmost care. The initial statement, released with measured language, confirmed only that Her Majesty was under medical supervision and that doctors were concerned about her well-being. No further details were disclosed. This carefully curated communication was characteristic of the palace's approach: protect the Queen's dignity, maintain stability within the monarchy, and avoid unnecessary panic or speculation. Yet, this silence left a vacuum, one quickly filled by rampant rumors and questions. Why was the palace so tight-lipped? What was the true extent of the Queen's condition? As days passed with minimal official updates, the public's curiosity deepened. Media outlets, from tabloids to respected newspapers, scrambled to provide insight, often relying on anonymous sources or palace insiders. Each report seemed to raise more questions than answers, painting a picture of an ailing monarch whose condition was deteriorating faster than anyone expected. The palace, however, remained steadfast in its strategy, issuing only occasional brief statements emphasizing the Queen's resilience and the family's privacy during this difficult time. This pattern echoed previous instances of royal health issues, such as Prince Philip's hospitalizations or Prince Charles's medical treatments, where transparency was limited and speculation rife. Within the walls of Buckingham Palace and Balmoral Castle, decisions about what to share with the public were debated intensely. Balancing the need for transparency with the desire to protect the Queen's privacy was no small task. The monarchy's survival depends heavily on public trust and respect, and admitting vulnerability, especially concerning the health of a beloved figurehead, could potentially undermine that trust. The official timeline released by the palace detailed key moments: the Queen canceling public engagements, consultations with medical experts, and eventual hospital visits. However, the exact nature of her illness was never disclosed, leaving medical experts and the public alike to speculate based on limited information. This opacity extended to the Queen's medical team. Her doctors, sworn to confidentiality, provided updates only to family members and select officials. It wasn't until after her passing that bits and pieces of her health challenges began to surface through unofficial channels, offering glimpses into the struggles she faced in her final months. The controlled release of information also played a role in shaping public mourning. By limiting details, the palace ensured the focus remained on honoring the Queen's life and legacy rather than delving into the specifics of her decline. This approach fostered a narrative of peaceful passing, a fitting end to a reign defined by steadfastness. Yet, the official narrative could not contain the growing unease sparked by the autopsy leak. The revelation that undisclosed medications were found in the Queen's system directly contradicted the image of meticulous and transparent care portrayed by the palace. If the official account was incomplete or misleading, what else might be hidden? The palace's silence on this matter raised further questions. Was the leak true? If so, why had the palace not addressed it publicly? Was there a deliberate effort to suppress information, or was the institution grappling with internal confusion and conflicting accounts? As the story unfolded, the leak's origins became a subject of intense scrutiny. Who within the tightly controlled circle of caregivers and palace staff would risk everything to reveal such sensitive details? Was it a whistleblower motivated by conscience? Or someone with a personal agenda seeking to destabilize the monarchy? The implications of the leak extended beyond the medical. It touched on trust, transparency, and the power structures within the royal family and their inner circle. If the autopsy report had been altered or selectively released, what did this say about the integrity of those responsible for the Queen's care and the monarchy's image? Public reaction was swift and emotional. Loyalists called for respect and privacy, warning against jumping to conclusions. Skeptics and critics saw the leak as confirmation of long-held suspicions about royal secrecy and possible wrongdoing. Social media became a battleground of competing narratives, fueled by rumors and the thirst for answers. In the days that followed, medical experts dissected the possible effects of the unidentified medications. Some proposed they could be strong sedatives, painkillers, or even drugs not typically prescribed to patients in such condition, raising the specter of medical error or intentional harm. Others cautioned against jumping to conclusions, noting the complexity of elderly care and the possibility of necessary but undocumented treatments. This chapter of the Queen's story remains clouded in mystery. The leak shattered the illusion of a simple, peaceful passing and exposed a web of unanswered questions. It challenged the monarchy's long-standing culture of privacy and sparked calls for transparency and accountability. As we continue to explore this story, we will delve into expert analyses, insider testimonies, and the broader context surrounding the Queen's care. We will seek to understand the possible scenarios behind the leak and what it means for the legacy of the late monarch and the future of the British crown. The revelation that something as fundamental as undisclosed medication could surface after a lifetime of meticulous public scrutiny marks a turning point. It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about power, secrecy, and vulnerability at the highest levels. The discovery of undisclosed medication in the Queen's system immediately raised a host of troubling questions. What exactly were these substances? Why were they absent from her official medical records? And, most importantly, could their presence have contributed to her sudden decline and ultimate death? To understand the gravity of these questions, it is essential to grasp how medication management works, especially for someone of the Queen's age and stature. Elderly patients, particularly nonagenarians like the Queen, often require complex regimens to manage chronic conditions. Each drug must be carefully chosen, prescribed, and monitored to avoid harmful interactions or side effects. Transparency and meticulous record-keeping are critical. In this context, any medication not documented properly is a serious red flag. Medical experts have weighed in on the implications. Dr. Eleanor Matthews, a geriatric specialist with over 25 years of experience, explained, "In elderly patients, the margin for error is razor-thin. Introducing an unknown medication could cause complications ranging from dizziness and confusion to life-threatening cardiac issues." She added, "In a patient as closely monitored as the Queen, the presence of unrecorded substances raises significant concerns about oversight. Theories about the nature of the undisclosed drugs abound. Some suggest they could be potent painkillers or sedatives administered to ease suffering in the Queen's final days, a form of palliative care not publicly acknowledged. Others speculate that these substances might have been experimental treatments or drugs sourced outside standard protocols. More alarmingly, there are whispers of possible tampering, whether accidental or intentional, by those responsible for her care. Why would such medications be omitted from official records? Several possibilities exist. One is simple human error. In the chaos of managing a complex case, especially under heightened secrecy, documentation could be incomplete. Another is the desire to protect the Queen's image and maintain public confidence by limiting the disclosure of sensitive medical details. Yet, a darker possibility looms, that someone deliberately concealed this information to hide malpractice or worse. The timing of these medications' administration is also under scrutiny. Were they introduced early in her treatment or only in her final hours? Did they accelerate her decline, or were they a response to worsening symptoms? Answering these questions is vital to understanding the true cause of her death. Royal insiders suggest that the Queen's medical care involved multiple layers: her personal physicians, specialists brought in for consultation, and aides managing day-to-day medication. Such complexity increases the risk of miscommunication or conflicting orders, which could result in undocumented medications entering her system. Beyond the medical implications, these revelations have ethical and legal dimensions. Proper consent and transparency in medical treatment are fundamental principles, especially when the patient is incapacitated or elderly. If the Queen's family or medical team were unaware of these substances, questions arise about who authorized their use and whether protocols were followed. Moreover, in the unique context of the monarchy, where image and legacy are paramount, medical decisions carry added weight. The balance between protecting privacy and ensuring ethical care becomes a tightrope walk. The public's response has been mixed. Some express empathy, acknowledging the difficulties of managing such a high-profile patient. Others demand full disclosure and accountability, fearing that secrecy might have masked negligence or foul play. As investigations continue, experts emphasize the need for a thorough and transparent review of the Queen's medical records and care processes. Without clarity, speculation will only deepen, further eroding trust in the institution. This chapter reveals the intricate and often hidden challenges of elder care within the royal household. It highlights the fragile intersection of medicine, ethics, and monarchy, a space where decisions impact not only one life, but a nation's sense of security and trust. In the next chapter, we will examine who had access to the Queen during her final days, shedding light on the circle of caregivers and family members who influenced her care. Understanding this network is crucial to unraveling how these undisclosed medications may have entered her system and why the truth remains elusive. In the final chapter, we examine the troubling questions surrounding the undisclosed medications found in the Queen's system. Now, to understand how such substances might have entered her care, it is vital to explore the intimate circle of individuals who had direct access to the Queen during her last days. This inner circle, the caregivers, medical professionals, and family members, held the key to her well-being and, potentially, to the secrets now coming to light. The Queen's health was managed by a team of highly qualified medical professionals, selected for their expertise and trusted implicitly by the royal household. Her personal physician, often referred to as the Queen's doctor, was the central figure in her medical care, coordinating treatments and monitoring her condition. Supporting this primary role were specialists in geriatrics, cardiology, and palliative care, brought in as needed to address the complex challenges of aging and illness. Alongside medical staff, a dedicated group of personal aides and nurses attended to the Queen's daily needs, including medication administration, mobility assistance, and personal care. These individuals, many of whom had served the monarch for years, were privy to the rhythms of her life and the nuances of her health. But the Queen's care extended beyond professionals. Family members, especially her children and close relatives, played significant roles during her final days. Prince Charles, as the heir apparent, was deeply involved in decisions regarding his mother's health, as were Princess and other senior royals. Their presence provided emotional support, but also introduced a complex dynamic where familial love and duty intersected with medical judgment. Access to the Queen was tightly controlled, especially in the weeks leading up to her passing. Security protocols ensured that only trusted individuals were allowed into her private chambers and the spaces where she spent most of her time. This exclusivity, while necessary for safety and privacy, also created an environment where information could be closely guarded, sometimes to the detriment of transparency. Inside this circle, tensions reportedly simmered. Differing opinions on treatment approaches, concerns about the Queen's comfort versus prolonging life, and disagreements over who should have authority created friction. Some sources suggest that this internal discord may have contributed to lapses in communication and oversight. One area of particular interest is the delegation of medication administration. While the Queen's personal physician held ultimate responsibility, day-to-day medication management was often entrusted to nursing staff and aides. This division of duties, though standard in elder care, introduces multiple points where errors or omissions can occur, especially when communication is imperfect. There have been reports, though unconfirmed, that some caregivers raised concerns privately about changes in the Queen's medication regimen, possibly questioning the introduction of certain drugs. Whether these concerns were heeded or suppressed remains unknown. Family dynamics also played a role. In a household where protocol and tradition are paramount, balancing respect for the Queen's wishes, medical advice, and family input can be fraught. Allegations have surfaced suggesting that some family members may have influenced decisions, advocating for more aggressive treatments or, conversely, for comfort-focused care. The pressure to protect the Queen's dignity and legacy often conflicted with medical realities. Moreover, the introduction of any new medication, especially those not previously prescribed, would have required authorization. Tracing who approved these changes is critical to understanding the presence of undisclosed substances in the autopsy. Security measures meant to safeguard the Queen may have inadvertently contributed to the secrecy. Limited access means fewer eyes on decisions, which can increase the risk of errors going unnoticed or issues being concealed. This closed environment also made whistleblowing or external oversight challenging. The anonymous leak of the autopsy details suggests that someone within this inner circle felt compelled to break silence, perhaps driven by concerns for the truth or frustration with the system. As we consider this complex network of caregivers and family, it becomes clear that the Queen's final days were shaped not only by medical challenges, but also by human factors: trust, loyalty, conflict, and discretion. Understanding who had access and influence is essential for piecing together the mystery of the undisclosed medications. It also sheds light on the broader challenges of caring for a figure who embodied both a private individual and a global symbol. In the next chapter, we will delve into the royal family's history of secrecy and how past instances of hidden health crises might have set the stage for the current controversy. This context is crucial to comprehending the palace's response and the culture that surrounds the care of its most revered members. To fully grasp the implications of the recent revelations about the Queen's death, it is necessary to look back at the royal family's long-standing tradition of secrecy, especially when it comes to health matters. For centuries, the British monarchy has maintained a carefully constructed veil over the personal lives and medical conditions of its senior members, operating under the belief that privacy is paramount to preserving the institution's dignity and stability. This chapter explores the legacy of concealment that may have influenced how the Queen's health was managed and disclosed, or not disclosed, in her final days. One of the most notable examples in modern royal history involves King George VI, the Queen's father, whose struggle with lung cancer and debilitating speech impediment was largely hidden from the public during his reign in the mid-20th century. His health issues were carefully guarded by palace officials, with the public only learning the full extent of his condition years later. This precedent set a tone for future generations. Health issues, especially those considered weaknesses, were to be kept behind closed doors to protect the monarchy's image. Similarly, the late Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, underwent multiple hospitalizations over the years for various health concerns, including heart surgery and infections. While some of these were disclosed to the public, details were often vague, tightly controlled, and sometimes delayed, sparking speculation and rumors. The palace's reluctance to reveal comprehensive medical information has been a consistent theme. The Queen herself, despite her public visibility and the decades of media scrutiny, was known to be fiercely protective of her privacy. Even minor health concerns were rarely discussed openly. When she experienced health scares or hospital visits, the palace typically released only brief, carefully worded statements designed to reassure the public without divulging specifics. This culture of discretion is rooted not only in tradition, but also in the unique pressures faced by a constitutional monarch. The Queen's role was both symbolic and political, and any perceived vulnerability could have ripple effects across the Commonwealth and beyond. Maintaining an image of strength and continuity was considered vital for national stability. However, this approach has drawbacks. Concealing health issues can delay necessary public awareness and dialogue. It also places immense pressure on those responsible for managing information, sometimes leading to omissions or inconsistencies that fuel suspicion. In the context of the Queen's death, this historical backdrop sheds light on the palace's handling of information. The undisclosed medications and the autopsy leak are not isolated incidents, but part of a broader pattern of guarded communication and limited transparency. The question arises, has this culture of secrecy, designed to protect, inadvertently caused harm? Could withholding information about the Queen's medical care have contributed to oversights or mismanagement? Some royal experts argue that the palace's approach is outdated in today's information age, where transparency is increasingly demanded by the public and media alike. Others defend the tradition, emphasizing respect for privacy and the unique nature of the monarchy. This tension between privacy and transparency is at the heart of the current controversy. The autopsy leak has shattered the carefully maintained narrative, forcing the palace to confront a new reality where secrecy is no longer easily maintained. The royal family's history of managing health information also intersects with its internal dynamics. Family members, courtiers, and advisors have long navigated a complex web of loyalty, discretion, and influence. In some cases, this has led to disagreements about how much to reveal and when. This chapter underscores that the recent revelations about the Queen's death did not emerge in a vacuum, but are part of a continuing story. A story of power, tradition, and the challenges of balancing public interest with personal privacy. As the monarchy faces this unprecedented scrutiny, questions about how it will adapt to a world that demands greater openness remain unanswered. The legacy of secrecy may be one of its most enduring challenges. In the following chapter, we will turn our attention to the reaction of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, figures who have often been at the center of royal family tensions, and explore how their response fits into the unfolding narrative surrounding the Queen's final days and the autopsy leak. The Queen's passing marked a profound moment of national mourning, but within the royal family, it also reignited long-standing tensions, especially surrounding Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Known for their fraught relationship with the monarchy and the media, their reaction to the autopsy leak and the circumstances of the Queen's final days added a complex layer to an already delicate situation. Prince Harry, the Queen's beloved grandson, had spent years distancing himself and Meghan from royal duties, seeking greater independence and a life away from the glare of the establishment. Their 2020 departure from senior royal roles was seen by many as a rupture within the family, one that brought both public support and harsh criticism. When the news of the undisclosed medication leak broke, Harry and Meghan's response was notably measured and circumspect. Unlike other family members who made public statements mourning the Queen and reaffirming loyalty, the couple maintained a guarded silence, choosing instead to release a joint statement expressing grief but avoiding direct commentary on the revelations. This silence fueled speculation. Some viewed it as respect for the Queen's memory during a sensitive time, while others interpreted it as a refusal to engage with what they considered an opaque and controlled narrative. Social media and tabloids buzzed with theories that Harry might use the leak as leverage in ongoing disputes with the palace or as a critique of its secrecy. Insiders suggest that Harry and Meghan were deeply troubled by the autopsy revelations, seeing them as emblematic of a royal system they believe has long suppressed truth and individuality. Meghan, in particular, has spoken publicly about the pressures and isolation she faced within the monarchy, themes that resonate with the secrecy and control surrounding the Queen's death. Family dynamics during the Queen's final days reportedly reflected this divide. While senior royals gathered at Balmoral, Harry and Meghan's participation was limited, due partly to geographical distance, but also, sources say, due to strained relationships. Their absence from key moments intensified scrutiny and speculation about their place in the family and their influence over the unfolding story. The autopsy leak, coming at a time when Harry and Meghan were already vocal critics of the institution, has been framed by some commentators as a moment that could deepen rifts within the family. Did this revelation serve as a catalyst for renewed tensions? Or was it merely a symptom of an already fractured relationship? Royal experts point to the couple's continued advocacy for transparency and mental health awareness as consistent with their measured response. Their reluctance to publicly engage with the leak may reflect a strategic decision to avoid inflaming divisions while still signaling disapproval of the palace's handling of the situation. Public reaction to Harry and Meghan's stance has been mixed. Supporters praise their call for openness and empathy, while critics accuse them of exploiting the Queen's death for personal agendas. This polarized response me. In the midst of this family drama, the Queen's legacy stands at the center, a symbol that both unites and divides. Her passing has become not only a moment of reflection on a remarkable life, but also a flashpoint for unresolved conflicts. As we continue our exploration, the next chapter will focus on expert opinions that delve into the medical and ethical questions raised by the autopsy leak. Their insights help us navigate the complex terrain between care, secrecy, and the truth behind the Queen's final days. The revelation of undisclosed medication in the Queen's system sparked not only public outrage, but also an urgent call for expert analysis. Medical professionals, forensic pathologists, and ethicists weighed in, attempting to decipher what the presence of such substances might indicate. Could this be a tragic case of medical oversight, or was there a more sinister explanation lurking beneath the surface? Leading geriatricians emphasized the complexity of prescribing medication for elderly patients. Dr. Samuel Green, a consultant in elderly medicine, explained, older adults metabolize drugs differently, and the risk of adverse reactions is significantly higher. Each prescription must be carefully justified and closely monitored. The appearance of unrecorded substances suggested a breach in this cautious protocol, raising concerns about possible errors in medication management. Forensic pathologists brought a different perspective. Dr. Helena Foster, renowned for her work in post-mortem toxicology, noted, finding unknown substances in an autopsy can signal several possibilities, from undocumented medical treatments to deliberate administration without proper oversight. In high-profile cases, this raises red flags for investigators. She cautioned, however, that the mere presence of such substances does not immediately imply foul play, but warrants thorough investigation. Ethicists entered the debate, questioning the moral responsibilities of caregivers and institutions. Transparency and informed consent are fundamental, stated Dr. Marcus Lang, a bioethics expert. If medications were administered without appropriate authorization or concealed intentionally, it breaches both medical ethics and human rights. Such violations are especially troubling when they involve vulnerable individuals, regardless of their social status. Some medical experts propose that the undisclosed drugs could have been palliative measures, introduced late to ease pain or discomfort. This scenario, while understandable in end-of-life care, raised further questions. Why were these medications omitted from official records? Was it to preserve the Queen's dignified image or to avoid public scrutiny? Others speculated about the possibility of medication errors, a known risk in complex care settings. Polypharmacy, the use of multiple drugs simultaneously, is common among elderly patients but increases the chance of harmful interactions and side effects. The absence of documentation could reflect chaos or miscommunication within the care team. More troubling were theories suggesting deliberate tampering or malpractice. Although there is no concrete evidence supporting these claims, the leak fueled suspicion that someone within the inner circle may have had motives to alter the Queen's treatment, whether out of personal gain, power struggles, or misguided intentions. Legal experts pointed out that if any malpractice occurred, it would carry severe consequences, including criminal investigations and lawsuits. The royal household's usual immunity and privacy protections could come under legal challenge if negligence or wrongdoing were proven. Media outlets sought expert opinions to help the public understand these complex issues. In televised interviews and written analyses, specialists unpacked the science of elderly pharmacology, the protocols for royal medical care, and the ethical dilemmas raised by secrecy. The intersection of medicine, ethics, and monarchy created a unique challenge. The Queen was not just any patient. Her care was intertwined with national symbolism, political considerations, and centuries of tradition. This complexity complicated straightforward medical explanations and called for nuanced understanding. In response to the autopsy leak, some experts called for reforms in royal healthcare transparency, arguing that public trust depends on openness, especially when a figurehead's health impacts the nation. Others caution that certain levels of privacy must be maintained to protect dignity and prevent sensationalism. Ultimately, these expert voices highlighted the need for a comprehensive and impartial investigation. Only by examining all medical records, care protocols, and the circumstances of medication administration can the truth be established. As we proceed, the next chapter will explore the media's role in shaping the narrative, examining how the story was reported, what was left unsaid, and the influence of long-standing relationships between the press and the royal family. The unfolding controversy over the Queen's death and the autopsy leak cast a glaring spotlight on the role of the media in shaping public perception of the monarchy. For decades, the British press has maintained a complex and often fraught relationship with the royal family, one that oscillates between reverence, scrutiny, and occasional complicity. This chapter examines how the story of the undisclosed medications was reported, what narratives were promoted or withheld, and whether silence or suppression played a part in the public's understanding of the truth. When news of the autopsy leak first surfaced, many major media outlets responded cautiously. Headlines ranged from respectful deference to mild curiosity, but few pursued aggressive investigations. Established newspapers and broadcasters often echoed official palace statements or relied heavily on anonymous sources, offering speculation rather than hard evidence. This reticence can be traced back to long-standing conventions within British journalism. The so-called Royal Press Corps has operated under implicit agreements to respect royal privacy, avoiding sensationalism that might disrupt the monarchy's image or cause distress. In return, the palace has granted access and exclusive content, fostering a symbiotic but delicate relationship. Critics argue that this cozy arrangement has led to self-censorship and selective reporting, effectively suppressing stories that challenge the royal narrative. The autopsy leak controversy provided a striking example. While independent and foreign media outlets covered the story more extensively, many British mainstream organizations treated it gingerly, wary of potential backlash or loss of privileged access. Social media, by contrast, exploded with discussion and speculation. Independent bloggers, commentators, and royal watchers dissected every detail, fueling a vibrant and often contentious debate. This digital democratization of information challenged traditional media's gatekeeping role and amplified voices demanding transparency and accountability. The disparity between mainstream media coverage and online discourse highlighted a growing distrust in established news sources. Viewers and readers questioned whether they were receiving the full story or a curated version designed to protect the monarchy. This skepticism contributed to the rise of conspiracy theories and misinformation, complicating efforts to establish factual understanding. Some journalists who sought to investigate the leak more deeply faced obstacles. Sources within the palace and medical teams were reluctant to speak openly, fearing repercussions. Legal restrictions and privacy laws further limited what could be reported. These barriers underscored the challenges inherent in covering a subject as sensitive and protected as the health of a reigning monarch. The media's handling of the story also reflected broader societal debates about the role of the press in balancing public interest with respect for privacy. Supporters of restraint argue that certain aspects of the Queen's health are personal matters and that excessive exposure would be inappropriate. Opponents contend that secrecy breeds suspicion and undermines democratic transparency. This chapter illustrates that the media's role is not merely about reporting facts, but about navigating ethical dilemmas and power dynamics. The way the autopsy leak was covered, or not covered, has profound implications for public trust in both the monarchy and the press. As this story continues to evolve, the media's approach remains under scrutiny. Will the press embrace greater independence and rigor in covering royal affairs, or will traditional patterns of deference persist? The answer may influence not only how this controversy resolves, but how the monarchy is perceived for generations to come. In the next chapter, we will delve into the internal dynamics of the royal family during this turbulent time, exploring reports of hidden tensions and conflicts that may have influenced decisions surrounding the Queen's care and the handling of sensitive information. Behind the solemn public facade of the British royal family during the Queen's final days, reports emerged of simmering tensions and hidden conflicts that have long been whispered about but rarely confirmed. The controversy surrounding the undisclosed medications and the autopsy leak cast these internal struggles into stark relief, suggesting that the monarchy was not just grappling with grief, but also with fractures that threatened its unity. Sources close to the family reveal a complex web of relationships strained by decades of duty, personal ambition, and differing visions for the monarchy's future. Prince Charles, as the new king, faced immense pressure to uphold tradition while steering the institution through unprecedented challenges. At the same time, younger family members and those estranged or distanced from court life observed these developments from varying perspectives, often at odds with the palace establishment. During the Queen's illness, decision-making about her care reportedly became a contentious issue. Conflicting opinions about medical approaches, the degree of transparency, and the involvement of various family members led to heated debates behind closed doors. Some insiders suggest that these disagreements influenced the management of information, possibly contributing to the omission of key details like the undisclosed medications. The presence of senior royals at Balmoral and their interactions were marked by a mix of reverence and unease. While all shared a common goal of honoring the Queen's dignity, underlying resentments and power struggles occasionally surfaced. For instance, differing views on the pace of succession and the role of younger generations sparked tensions that complicated collective decision-making. Prince Andrew's role in this period was also a subject of speculation. Having faced public scandal and a diminished royal role, his relationship with other family members remained fraught. Observers questioned whether his influence or exclusion had any bearing on the unfolding events or the flow of information. Further complicating matters were the contrasting responses of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, whose physical distance from the palace mirrored emotional divides. Their limited participation in key moments and nuanced public statements fueled rumors of ongoing rifts, adding another layer to the family's internal dynamics. These hidden tensions extended beyond individual personalities to structural issues within the monarchy. The balance between personal loyalty, public duty, and institutional survival created a challenging environment for decision-making, particularly in crisis situations like the Queen's illness and passing. Confidential communications between family members and advisors reportedly reflected frustration and urgency, with some pushing for more openness and others advocating for strict control over narratives. This tug-of-war played out quietly, but had significant implications for how the Queen's care and death were managed publicly. The autopsy leak can be seen as both a symptom and a catalyst of these tensions, a breach that exposed fault lines and forced the family to confront uncomfortable realities. It also highlighted the challenge of maintaining unity amid competing interests and pressures. As the monarchy navigates this crisis, the question remains whether these internal fractures can be healed or will lead to further destabilization. The balance between preserving tradition and adapting to modern expectations hangs in the balance. In the next chapter, we will explore the public's reaction to these revelations, capturing the mix of grief, anger, suspicion, and hope that defines this pivotal moment in the monarchy's history. The Queen's death was met with a wave of national mourning, a collective outpouring of grief that transcended generations and social divides. For many, she was more than a monarch. She was a symbol of continuity, stability, and resilience. Her passing represented the end of an era, and the country united in sorrow. Yet, the emergence of the autopsy leak and the revelation of undisclosed medication stirred a more complex and conflicted response among the public. While respect for the Queen's legacy remained widespread, feelings of anger, suspicion, and betrayal began to surface. This chapter delves into the multifaceted public reaction, capturing the emotional turbulence sparked by the unfolding controversy. Social media platforms became a primary outlet for expression. Thousands shared heartfelt tributes, recounting personal memories and the Queen's impact on their lives. At the same time, forums and comment sections buzzed with debate over the authenticity of the autopsy leak and the possible implications. Many expressed frustration at what they perceived as a pattern of secrecy and lack of transparency from the palace. Questions arose. Why were these medications undisclosed? Was there a cover-up? Could more have been done to prevent the Queen's decline? Such sentiments reflected a growing skepticism toward established institutions and a demand for accountability. Some commentators framed the situation as a metaphor for broader societal issues, a disconnect between power structures and the people they serve. The Queen's death, and the mystery surrounding it, became a lens through which concerns about trust, truth, and governance were examined. At the same time, loyalists and royal supporters urged caution against jumping to conclusions. They emphasized the need to honor the Queen's memory and respect the family's privacy during a difficult time. For them, the controversy was a painful distraction from mourning. Public opinion polls reflected this divide, showing a mixture of deep respect for the Queen alongside unease about the circumstances of her passing. The monarchy's approval ratings experienced fluctuations as the story developed, underscoring the delicate balance between reverence and criticism. Community vigils, memorials, and public gatherings illustrated the nation's collective grief. Yet beneath these scenes of solidarity lay undercurrents of questioning and debate, signaling that the monarchy's relationship with the public was evolving. The media's role in shaping this reaction was significant. Sensational headlines and speculative coverage fueled emotions, while more measured reporting sought to provide context and calm fears. This dynamic contributed to a public discourse marked by both empathy and skepticism. In the digital age, information and misinformation spread rapidly. Conspiracy theories gained traction, some alleging intentional harm or hidden motives within the royal family. While many dismissed these as baseless, their popularity highlighted a crisis of trust and the power of narrative. Ultimately, the public's reaction to the Queen's death and the autopsy leak encapsulates a moment of transition. It reflects a society grappling with loss, seeking truth, and renegotiating its relationship with an institution long considered sacrosanct. In the next chapter, we will examine the question of whether the Queen was a victim of neglect or system failure, a critical exploration of the care she received and the safeguards that may have faltered in her final days.